They lied to us. For years, they painted a picture of strength, of a man who could never crack, never falter, never show pain. But the silence has finally shattered, and what lies beneath that carefully polished image will leave South Africa shaken. The truth is darker, more tragic, and far more human than anyone dared to believe. Lerato, the woman long whispered about in private circles, has broken her silence. And what she reveals about Nathi Mthethwa's final days is nothing short of heartbreaking. According to Lerato, Nathi's death wasn't sudden. It wasn't even a single tragic moment. It was a slow unraveling, the consequence of years spent suffocating under expectations, public pressure, and the cruel demand to appear unbreakable. She describes a man who gave everything to his country, his career, his public image, and, in the process, lost himself. Tell me, have you ever seen someone so committed to their duty that they forgot how to live for themselves? Lerato says that behind the public speeches, the sharp suits, and the commanding presence was a man who barely slept, who barely smiled, and who carried a loneliness so heavy it followed him everywhere he went. He was exhausted, she says softly. Not just tired, exhausted in his soul. Those words sting because we all saw the confident minister, but we never saw the man silently drowning in expectation. Every day brought new political battles, more media scrutiny, and an unrelenting public that demanded answers, results, perfection. There was no room for rest. No space for vulnerability. Nathi believed that showing weakness, even once, would destroy everything he had built. And so he wore his mask tighter. How many of us are guilty of doing the same, pretending we're fine just to keep others comfortable? Lerato reveals that his health had been deteriorating long before anyone knew. Doctors warned him repeatedly to slow down, to take a step back, to prioritize his heart, literally and figuratively. But he wouldn't listen. He said leaders don't get to rest, she recalls. He said South Africa was watching. That one sentence alone shows how deeply trapped he was by his own image, a prisoner of expectations. In private, the man who once controlled entire police forces couldn't even control his own body. The headaches became migraines. The fatigue turned into fainting spells. He would hide the symptoms, brushing off pain as nothing more than stress. He didn't want anyone to see him weak, Lerato says. He thought they'd lose respect for him. Can you imagine living every day afraid of being human? Lerato remembers one evening vividly. He came home from a meeting pale and trembling. She begged him to go to the hospital. Instead, he sat down, looked at her, and said quietly, "If I fall, I fall standing." Those were the words of a man who had made peace with his suffering. A man who valued image over life. Tell me, is that strength, or is that the kind of strength that kills? What Lerato reveals next changes everything. She insists that the real secret Nathi guarded wasn't corruption, scandal, or betrayal. It was vulnerability. He was terrified that people would discover he was unwell, that his body was failing him. To him, admitting that would be the ultimate humiliation. He thought the people needed a strong man, she says, even if that strong man no longer existed. The burden of perfection consumed him. Every photo, every statement, every appearance had to project control. And yet, behind closed doors, Lerato watched him crumble. She tells of nights when he would wake up gasping for breath, drenched in sweat, muttering about political enemies, unfinished plans, and broken promises. He couldn't switch off, she says. Even in his sleep, he was still working. Eventually, his body started sending louder warnings. His heart would race uncontrollably. He'd lose focus mid-conversation. Once, Lerato found him sitting on the bathroom floor, dizzy and disoriented. He smiled weakly and said, "Don't tell anyone." How many people are hiding their breaking points right now, afraid of being seen as fragile? There was a moment, one that Lerato says she'll never forget, when he finally admitted he couldn't go on. He said to me, "I think I'm done." Those 4 words were his quiet surrender. Not to failure, but to reality. His decision to step down wasn't about scandal. It was survival. It was the one act of rebellion he could still control. Choosing to live, even if the world saw it as weakness. But the world didn't understand. When news of his resignation spread, the whispers began. Stories of disgrace, of power lost, of political downfall. No one knew that the man they were mocking had just made the bravest decision of his life. Lerato stayed silent then, honoring his wish for privacy. But silence, she says, eventually became unbearable. She watched as rumors tarnished his legacy, as strangers dissected his character without ever knowing the real man. And now, she's speaking out, not for fame, not for sympathy, but to restore his humanity. He wasn't a monster, she says through tears. He was a man trying to be everything for everyone until there was nothing left of him. Her confession has divided the country. Some call her brave, others call her a liar. But no matter what people believe, her story has ignited a national conversation about the impossible pressures faced by public figures. Do we, as citizens, demand too much? Do we forget that even leaders bleed, ache, and break just like the rest of us? Lerato admits it took her years to find the courage to tell this story. She says she could still hear his voice in her head, warning her to keep his struggles private. But she also knew that the truth had to be told, even if it meant opening old wounds. He didn't die a fallen man, she insists. He died fighting a battle no one ever saw. As painful as her words are, they carry a message we all need to hear. Power doesn't make you invincible. Titles don't protect you from pain. And sometimes, the people we look up to the most are the ones silently falling apart inside. How many times have we ignored the signs because we assumed the strong would always stay strong? Since her revelation, people have begun re-examining how society defines strength. Is it holding on no matter what, or is it knowing when to let go? Lerato believes Nathi's greatest act wasn't leading the nation, it was choosing to save himself, even if that meant walking away from everything.
He didn't quit, she says.
He survived as long as he could. His death wasn't simply the end of a political career. It was a warning that power without rest, responsibility without humanity, leads to destruction. And maybe, just maybe, that's the lesson we were meant to learn from his story. So now, I'll ask you, what does real strength look like to you? Is it enduring until you collapse, or is it having the courage to admit that you've reached your limit? Leave your thoughts below, because this isn't just his story. It's ours too. Lerato's voice, once silenced by fear and judgment, has now become the echo of truth. Her words force us to see Nathi Mthethwa not as a fallen official, but as a man who gave too much and finally paid the price for it. In the end, his legacy isn't one of failure or scandal. It's one of sacrifice. A reminder that even those who seem untouchable are still human. And sometimes, the greatest strength isn't found in standing tall, but in knowing when to finally lay your burdens down.